Hello and welcome to this week's roundup by blockchaingamer.biz. Today is Friday, the 7th of April, and I'm your host, Jenny Jordan, editor on the site, and with me is co-host John Jordan, editor-in-chief.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you got a bit of a different setup today as we're on holiday in an Airbnb, so you might hear some noisy children in the background, but still, we thought we'd crack on and do this weekly roundup anyway.
Absolutely.
So we'll go straight into it. We got the Ultra games platform, announcing that they'll go live later this
25th. Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess that's the sort of biggest bit of news, I suppose. It's one of those, I guess, known unknowns. So, I mean, Ultra's been around for a long, long time, like I'm pretty sure 2018 was when they sort of first announced. And they've been building the thing out ever since. Partly that's because it's what they're trying to do is complicated. So I guess on one level it is a sort of a, often write about it as a Steam on blockchain. So they're looking to be in the first instance, at least a PC game distribution platform running on the blockchain. So Ultra itself is a blockchain. So it has its own blockchain, has its own token. It's basically based on the EOS SDK. And so obviously one of the things they do is they allow people to buy PC games, download them. And also, I guess one of the sort of elements people talk about a lot, although I think it's less relevant than maybe some of the other features, is you can resell those games. So, that people, I guess we've never seen that really operating. But people buy a lot of games and then they don't want them anymore, and maybe there's some value in reselling them. Obviously, the problem with that is that. Excuse us. Obviously, the problem with that is then it's difficult for developers because then developers, potentially have many more people trying to sell sort of secondhand copies of games than they can sell new ones. So we don't quite know how the dynamics of that's going to work. And I think maybe that's something people talk about, but is less interesting in this sort of situation. So the other things Ultra have is it has an NFT marketplace. So some of the games it's selling are just normal Web 2 games. So I guess the highest profile one.
They'll keep selling those, will they? Or...
Yeah, I mean the majority of stuff on there is standard, traditional PC games. The problem is most of them are quite old, and as far as I can tell, I'm not looking in great detail, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of discounting. And obviously, there's Steam and there's the Epic Game Store and all these other game stores. So it's not quite clear to me that people would like, I need another game store to buy. All the other PC games that are already out there. That seems, exactly not what people want. So obviously, it's a bit difficult. It's taken them so long to launch, and clearly, the point that they are is on the blockchain. So you would think over time, the sweet spot for them is going to be the place where you go to download blockchain PC games, because that's and I don't think those PC games don't have to work on the Ultra blockchain, because. But there is a sort of issue then is if you had a game running on Polygon, would you want it on Ultra? Because the thing that would make most sense is people make games that run on the Ultra blockchain, and the assets, the NFTs and stuff are on the Ultra platform as well. So there's still a bit of sort of sorting out, depending on how's it actually going to work, but what's going to be how's it actually going to how actually people are going to use it. I suppose is the interesting bit. So like I say, they have an NFT marketplace. They've done some stuff. And they have an esport thing called Ultra Arena, which is in the very early stages. So that's sort of interesting. And also have integration with Theta. So Theta is like a Twitch streaming service, which is its own blockchain as well. So Theta Labs has been around for a while. So they have a whole bunch of this sort of stuff, in there, which is why it's taken them so long, I guess, to build this thing out. It is quite a complicated process they're doing. But it's still not clear to me, which of those features is actually people could actually be interested in. I mean, maybe it'd be all of them, but I would think for me, sort of leaning in more into the blockchain side of things is going to that to me sort of seems what will be most interesting in the sort of medium term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you do see those marketplaces now, like Magic Eden, and so they might have started out thinking they would just have one blockchain on there, but then because games and projects are moving towards being more cross-chain, perhaps, and so for that reason, they just realised that to be able to stand in the market, you'd have to onboard projects that are not just on one blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally in blockchain everything is moving sort of multi-chain or cross-chain, however you want to say it. So maybe Ultra have a big sort of view on that we haven't heard of yet. But it is difficult. It's interesting that there are sort of the competition now is not really people trying to do what they're doing, because what they're trying to do is very hard. But there are these things like sort of the Flame Store and as various other versions as well. And they're not really you don't really download games from them. They're more like sort of discovery platforms for blockchain games, where you just here's a whole bunch of blockchain games that got live, and then you sort of go to download, it takes you to the game site, so you sort of do it that way. Whereas Ultra is you download the Ultra client and then you download from within that sort of thing. So it's a more integrated platform. Yeah. But there's lots of other these less complicated things that are actually just springing up, loads of them. So there is sort of even in the blockchain games distribution space, there is a bit more sort of competition. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, they're sort of smart people. They know how to build big infrastructure. They've done that in the past. But for me, I'd be a little bit concerned it's taken them so long to build out what they wanted to do that maybe the thing that they have ended up with is actually not what the market now needs. But maybe it would have been 2 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Right. Next announcement: German game developer Godzilla. They have announced. Is there also like a platform or?
Yeah, everyone's doing it. Yeah. So we've known for a while that they're quite a high-profile sort of company. So they raised like $46 million. They got the director of the film, District 9, is like a creative person there. The person Richard Morgan, the person who wrote these really well-known sci-fi books, hard sci-fi books called Altered Carbon, the brilliant books. He's on the sort of payroll as well. So they've got these people, who just in narrative terms in film and books, really know what they're doing. And their developers have worked for some big companies as well. So they're sort of, everyone's interested to hear what they're doing. They're doing this game called Off the Grid, which is like a third-person extraction shooter, PC and console. It's interesting. They're quite, upfront about saying they're going to come to PlayStation and Xbox. And we've seen a few people sort of do similar marketing. We don't quite know. We don't know when or whatever. But that'd be interesting. So we knew all that sort of stuff. But now they've announced the game will be on. Nominally on the Avalanche blockchain. So again, that's interesting. We've not heard much from Avalanche recently. I guess Shrapnel, another big extraction shooter, is sort of the most high-profile game on Avalanche at the moment. The two aren't related at all, I should say, as far as I know. But the Godzilla people are creating their own what's called subnet. So it's a little bit on the terminology here. So broadly speaking, I think when it comes to Polygon talks about supernets and Avalanche talks about subnets. And they're just ways of sort of running effectively their L2 blockchains, their scaling blockchains that developers have control over because probably only their game is running on it. So they can sort of control it. And it's sort of a little bit what Immutable X are doing with their ZK EVMs. So everyone's working out different ways of doing it and using different terminology, but it's basically the same sort of thing. Yeah. So it's basically their sort of blockchain for gaming, and on top of that, they also have some SDK stuff. So they have the ability for people to mint their own tokens and NFTs and run their own marketplaces and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's more than just a blockchain. It is excuse my wife's sorting out our children. So it is more than just a blockchain. It's sort of some infrastructure around it. And they have said other game developers are using that. They haven't announced that yet. So, and they're not the only people doing that. I mean, there's a whole bunch, it seems to go in cycles. The blockchain game developers then suddenly decide they're going to also be tool providers. And some of that, obviously, for some companies that works really well. For Epic, that works really well. They made the game Unreal 25 years ago. And then they made Unreal as an engine, and then they've made a lot of money from that. But I think people slightly overestimate how easy it is to make a game and a tool set that other people will also use. Most companies really have to focus on one or the other. So we'll see with Godzilla. Anyway, they got this thing called Gun. They're guns, isn't it? Yeah, guns. And their token's called Gun. I mean, it is. You can see what this game's going to be about. It's going to be about, and it is a very much. I think in the game you run around and you collect this stuff called Hex, I think, and then you sort of use that to make NFTs. But the NFTs are all about customizing guns, as far as I can see. So good if you like extraction shooters. Avalanche would be the place to be.
We have seen some mints or announced dates for mint. So we got the wild card mint.
Oh, yeah,
They've
that's
announced
right.
for 25th of April. They
Yes.
are going to mint 4,444
characters, I guess.
Genesis,
Genesis,
yeah, it's passes, wild passes. I
the
think they
passes
call
of it.
them.
Yes,
And then
that's
they
right.
got
Yes.
the D-Labs games
Yes.
who have announced their adventure passes, which is their first mint that went live yesterday for their games Rumble Racing Star, and then 2 more games are coming in the future. So those are the notable mints, really, I think. Then we had a game of the week, which we picked.
We did.
Crypto Crusades. They just went on mobile this week.
They've just gone. Yeah, they've sort of been alive through. I think on Google Play they've been live on sort of early access, but now they're live on iOS as well. And you had a go at this. How did you find it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the first like hect grid empire building map type strategy game as such I've ever played, really. First for me, but
a bit.
I find it's early. It feels early, really, with everything is on chain, which I like. It's visionary, isn't it? To really try and go all out blockchain, but then you got these kind of lags and interruptions where it doesn't work, and at the moment it feels as that's more than not really.
I mean,
basically every transaction is on chain.
Yeah, it's what I guess pretty much we call a fully on chain game. I mean, they've been around for a while. So Merfolk Games, I've sort of they've been around at conferences. I've met up with them. They're sort of they're very indie, sort of self-funded, I think, pretty much. And they, a couple of years they've been around, and I've played sort of early demos of it. It doesn't seem to change very much at all, but it is interesting, as you say. Sort of, so it's a game where you're sort of collecting resources or sort of creating troops or leveling up your buildings.
You can craft NFTs.
Yeah, I think that's a bit further. I've not really seen how you do that. But yes, you can do that. So is that sort of base building and then going out and attacking other people on the map sort of thing? But literally, sort of everything you do is a blockchain transaction. What's interesting there is they're using Scale Network, which is a Ethereum-based L2, and there's no gas fees. So I don't know if they're covering all the gas on the back end or quite how the gas is being covered, or maybe there isn't any gas, but normally some sort of gas fee. And they create a wallet for you when you create the game. You have your 12 words secrets.
That was very easy onboarding.
Which is sort of nice to see. but then equally, as you say, often, more often than not, or at least 50% of the time, you press the button to do something and a little pop-up says doing a blockchain transaction, and then it goes failed.
And I also really struggled actually to be able to figure out how do I attack. Maybe I haven't sort of got enough resources and
no.
yet in my.
Well, that's the other issue that they
But how you even find on the map.
Yes.
You can attack and such.
I mean, I think it's sort of weird. So they're suffering, I think, with the blockchain stuff from sort of going live and maybe too many transactions. But sort of the way they've set up the map is you can sort of choose. They've got 6 different servers or something, and it seems so. So I don't think they've got vast amounts of people playing this because it is pretty crypto heavy. So it's very hard to find other people to attack because you're all different sort of. You have to scroll around the map to find them. So they're much better off, I think, having just one server, sticking everyone in that server, and then obviously open up new servers as more people come on. So
But it's exciting to see where it's going to go in this game.
Yeah, and I think it's just it's unfortunate, I suppose, that these games have teething problems, but these often particularly for indies, they're not raised tons of money, so they've done it all themselves, and making blockchain games is pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
And they are doing, as you say, the previous games we've had for Game of the Week have sort of been very straightforward, sort of obvious gameplay, very action oriented, and this is just not that sort of game.
No.
So it's just one I think that just takes maybe sort of weeks of playing to get into. You start off with nothing, and then
exactly. You have to build up your resources before you can even start your action. Whereas the fast paced kind of battle royales, you basically land and off you go, sort of thing. So it's different.
So we'll see how we get on with that.
Okay, well, that's it from us for this week. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.